What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the BFF Show. My name is Brandon.
I'm Franco.
Franco, we are on once again AMP premiere. Whether you're seeing this for the first time or seeing this for perhaps in the rotation the fifth or sixth time, we thank you for joining us. As always, you can also find us on our YouTube channel. Franco, what is the YouTube again?
The BFF Show on AMP.
Yeah! So you will never forget where we are, and we'll never forget where we've been. Maybe? Teaser. So, Franco, we've got a lot to talk about. I hope you're doing well. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. We chatted a little bit via Instant Messenger, but how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. We had turkey and ham.
Nice.
And we ate it, and we had football, and I feel like that's pretty much an American Thanksgiving.
You're missing one thing, buddy, the drinkies. Did you have any drinks?
I did. I had a rum and Coke with dinner.
Nice. You've hit all
after
five.
Dinner.
That's right. You've hit all 5 marks you need to hit for your Thanksgiving. You did it, buddy. 5 times. I did 5 because that is how you make a turkey drawing when you are in preschool.
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. Went to some family out here in California, Los Angeles area. It was great. We ate turkey. I had some drinks. I had wine. I was classier than you were. And I had a really great time. It was fun. And then you and I both saw a movie. Maybe we'll get to a little later or we'll save it for another time. But it kind of made it more fun for me watching this film because I had 2 beers. So we'll talk about that ratio of whether or not you need alcohol to enjoy it. But this is first and foremost a sports show. Sometimes you might be hard pressed to realize that if you've watched some of these episodes or listened to the show. They don't always go this way, but darn it, we are technically a sports show. So let's dive into the NFL. I want to talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson coming in backup quarterback for most of the year because Joe Flacco of the Baltimore Ravens was playing not that well. Finally, there is an injury, which, Franco, I'm not quite sure how bad that injury is for Joe Flacco because it seemed like everyone and their mother wanted Lamar Jackson to be starting, and starting he did. So he has been successful so far. He beat the Raiders, which I don't know if that's really a measure of success because anyone can beat the Raiders. But now there's a lot of hype around whether or not he remains the starter. And I think as of this recording, they haven't officially announced that whether or not he is the announcer. I looked down to see Franco while I'm recording and confirming that is the case. But interesting note from today about Lamar Jackson is Michael Vick on ESPN said that Lamar Jackson should be careful, that he should only be running the ball himself 10 to 12 times a game. Franco, I wanted to talk about that comment and whether or not you believe that is some good advice or is that bad advice, and what is your overall impression of what Lamar Jackson's done so far?
Sure. I think it's good advice from a bad source. I'm not sure Michael Vick should be giving anybody career advice. It's not that I don't like Michael Vick. I do, and I think he's done a great job rebuilding himself and being part of society and coming back to the league. But he never made good choices with his legs, and that was kind of the end of his career. This is the same guy that didn't prepare for being a backup quarterback and got into the game and looked like a college player in the NFL game.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure he has the right to say a ton. I do think for his longevity, Lamar Jackson needs to run a little less. It's very reminiscent of the RG3 Redskins year where he ran a ton, and then we saw him go down the knee injury, and then try to get back in the game. And a rather full circle story, he's now the backup quarterback in Baltimore. So I think he is the real deal. I think he'll learn to run less and throw more. Am I afraid there's a little bit of Vince Young in there? Probably. But I think he has the talent and the skill level to continue on once he learns how to be a little more pocket passer. And I think we've seen him expand his game in the last 2 starts, going from basically being a wildcat running back to being a game-managing quarterback in one game. So hopefully the evolution continues. I buy Lamar Jackson. How about you?
I buy too. I picked him up in fantasy. I was very excited about that move. I think it makes the Ravens way more exciting because, quite frankly, Franco, you and I have really not spoken about the Ravens at all this year until now, and that's primarily because of Lamar Jackson. I think that's what is enticing about him, and I think that, in my opinion, Harbaugh seems to be a little bit of a more mindful coach than Shanahan was with RG3. So I had that same fear of, oh no, I hope this doesn't become an RG3 thing, but remember that was a really convoluted and messed up story when Shanahan seemed to just keep throwing him out there regardless of the injury. So that's the suspect issue with that story. So I think my hope is that they learn from that situation, the Baltimore Ravens do, and don't put their hopefully, potentially, number one QB in that position. But the question does remain, what do you do with Joe Flacco if this takes off? You could trade him. Maybe, I don't think he would accept a backup role. I mean, he did win a Super Bowl ring, so I think you got to trade him out somewhere. And I think a trade to somewhere like Jacksonville might work because they are in need of a quarterback, Franco. I did a perfect segue there. And we found out just today or yesterday that Bortles has been benched. Sadly, Jacksonville has
possibility. I do think he's more of a game manager, a la Trent Dilfer. But I don't think he has a future in the league, honestly. I think he'll fade into obscurity. But maybe he'll go Vinny Testaverde and be around a lot longer than we think.
Cool. Can you hear me now?
I can. Did you get my Vinny Testaverde story?
I did a little bit of it, and I think it'll be real fun when you edit this because I launched into Blake Bortles while you were frozen, so I didn't realize that you were...
Oh, that's fine. All right. So
you were going to love editing this. But I will recap that and pretend like it never happened. So, Blake Bortles, great segue, Franco, because a team that needs a quarterback is the Jacksonville Jaguars because they benched Blake Bortles finally after a failed experiment, regardless of the fact that he signed an extension of $54 million. Yikes. So Jacksonville also fired their offensive coordinator. Now, I don't even remember who they're picking up to start, but all I remember about the guy is he's 0-8 as a starter, and he played for the Browns 3 years ago. So not really exciting times down there. Franco, what do you think happens to Blake Bortles, and what happens to the future of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, I think Blake Bortles will be a backup for the rest of his career. And I think the Jaguars are a very interesting cautionary tale. They played really well last year. They wanted to be the Seahawks of yesteryear, who were very flamboyant and arrogant because their defense was effective. Unfortunately, they have 14 players on IR this year, and growing, actually. So their defense was kind of gutted, and so was their offensive line. The problem is, instead of shutting up and playing the game, Jalen Ramsey likes to talk, and that kind of made them a target. And I think you've seen teams that have been underperforming beat them, and even with the limited roster, the Jacksonville Jaguars should have beat them, but they've given them bulletin board material, and we saw it happen. So I think the Jaguars are in trouble. I think they have a chance to revitalize themselves, but I'm not sure how fast it's going to happen. I think their best bet isn't Joe Flacco. I think it's going after Tyrod Taylor or one of those type of players. And just so you know, Cody Kessler is the player, the quarterback for the Jaguars, and you can't really hold against him the fact that he went 0-8 with the Browns because of the Browns. He can't be any worse than Blake Bortles, so we'll see.
We're going to find out. I think that is the most enticing part of this week's game is, can he be worse? Is it a Nathan Peterman in the making? Ooh, I hope so. I'm sad that Nathan Peterman got released last week because that was a fun time while it lasted. But speaking
the
of
Raiders
Browns,
might sign him, just saying. I mean, it would be a very John Gruden move to sign Peterman and cut Carr to see if you can coach him up. Because remember, Peterman was one of Gruden's quarterback
Gruden grinder, baby.
Yeah, so it could happen. Just saying.
The march to the number one draft pick continues for the Oakland Raiders. Let's talk about Browns since we brought it up. I brought it up. I started it. Baker Mayfield, 4 touchdowns this past Sunday. The funniest part of that game for me, though, Franco, is that Hugh Jackson, who had been fired by the Browns, is now a special assistant or something like that to the Bengals and potentially being groomed to be their head coach, which is wild because how does that happen when you go maybe 2 for 30, 2 for 31, I think is his record with the Browns. But somehow, some way, he may actually be the head coach of another NFL team next year. And they brought him in primarily for the Browns. The Browns light him up. At the end of it, Hugh Jackson tries to go for the hug with Baker Mayfield, and he gets denied with the straight-up handshake, stiff arm. And then afterward, Mayfield describes, about how it's not that he just wasn't in the mood to talk. And why would you talk to a guy that tried to coach them up for so long, but then ended up going to the opposing team? Franco, where are you in this beef of between the Patties, Baker Mayfield and Hugh Jackson, that juicy beef we've got going right now?
I don't eat hamburgers, so I wouldn't even know. I mean, that's a lie. I love hamburgers, but I mean, I don't care, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, Mayfield wasn't even the most disrespectful Browns player. Mayfield was just the one they're going to focus on because he's quarterback. Don't forget, the cornerback handed Hugh Jackson the ball, who forgot, I think, what sideline he was on because he accepted the ball and patted him on the head, Demarius Randall. So that was pretty disrespectful. Yeah. Demarius Randall also went into the end zone area and signed a poster that was Dwight Schrute, kind of superimposed it with Hugh Jackson that said special assistant to the head coach.
Yep.
And signed it, hashtag Dwight Schrute, but Hugh all capitalized. And then there was a litany of players that come out against Hugh Jackson as well. So I think Hugh Jackson's decision to join a team right before they played the Browns was his mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Baker Mayfield's attitude. I think he is arrogant and brash and rude. And I think I'm the same way sometimes too, so I don't really mind it. But I think he has what it takes to be a winner. And if I was in his shoes, and my coach who had spent the entire preseason and early season talking about our team, our goal, our win, I'm like, we're a family, we're always going to do this, and then within 2 games of being cut, he signs up and starts giving your plays away to the opponent, then I'd be pissed too. I wouldn't be shaking that man's hand or hugging him. He's lucky he had a handshake, I think. And to touch on the later point, Hugh Jackson being head coach, I think what fans don't realize, like you and I, is that Hugh Jackson's very well thought of in circles. And don't forget, before he got the Browns job, he was talked about as being one of the best candidates because of the work he did in Cincinnati with that offense. Mm-hmm. Turning Dalton into a real quarterback, making Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill work as a tandem. He did a lot of great things. I do think he has a good offensive mind. I don't think he has the stomach to be head coach, and I think that's the problem. But I do think he is being groomed to be the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think it'll either work or it won't. But if I was going to walk into Las Vegas, I'd probably bet the house on not.
Wow, that's deep. That is deep. I like that. That's a hot take. Mildly hot take.
It's a mild take.
It's a mild take. I mean, I love it. I think it's finally the Browns have someone that's confident and can back it up and not just confident just to be confident's sake. So I think it's exciting. Nick Chubb is an exciting player too. I think it's just a nice team that they got going on now finally over there. And I think this just kind of adds to it where they're more unified now against Hugh Jackson. Maybe this will help them in the stretch. And I think they actually end up being a little bit of a dangerous team to watch for the end of the season because I think that if they could, I don't think they're in. I think they're still technically in the wild card contention, but
they are. They're still in the hunt.
They're still in the hunt, but even if they don't make it, I think they'd be the type of team that if it's week 17 and I need to beat the Browns to get in there, and I don't know their schedule at the time, but I would be afraid if I had to rely on the Browns losing in the last couple weeks of the season. Let's talk about your home team, Franco. Speaking of losing, I am on fire with segues. Green Bay Packers. They are spiraling out of control.
Stop. The Green Bay Packers are not my home team. I live in Green Bay. My home team is the San Francisco 49ers. Much in the same way, despite the fact you lived in New York your entire life, you've decided to be a Raiders fan.
Listen,
I actually have ties. All right, hey, you know what? Whatever.
I found a hat that fit my tiny, large, at the time, Irish head of a 5-year-old that said Raiders. So I have some history there, okay, friend?
I'm so happy Big Lots gave you the chance to be a real fan. But anyway.
Don't hurt my mother's feelings. She got me that stuff. How dare you?
Please go ahead with the Green Bay Packers, not my Green Bay Packers, and go for
the Green Bay Packers, Franco, out of respect for you. They are lost again this past Sunday, and it looks like the Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy era might be coming to an end. And I got to say, I think that Aaron Rodgers, at this point, you got to make him happy. He signed a max contract. If he is the face of your franchise moving forward and he's not happy with what the coaching situation is, maybe it is time for McCarthy to go and you try and find someone innovative. I'm sure he looks around and sees the Rams and he sees the offensive firepower. They have Andy Reid and that firepower and maybe wants the same thing for his offense, which they had in the past, which they're just not getting anymore. So maybe it is time to cut the cord, Franco.
Yeah, from Aaron Rodgers.
Whoa. Hot take alert. Put that on the screen.
Aaron Rodgers sat there and looks at the Rams and the Chiefs. What do they both have in common in how they built their rosters?
They drafted well, very well. and they brought in free agents.
Yeah, that too. But their QB salaries are both under rookie contract.
Correct.
There is no max deal there. There is a max deal on the defensive end on Aaron Donald, but it's done in a way that allows for cap space.
Yeah.
What Aaron Rodgers decided to do by taking a max contract was limit the availability of the Packers to build around him. The end. If Aaron Rodgers wants to be upset about it, he can only look at himself. When Tom Brady started to slip, and yes, Aaron Rodgers is starting to slip. I'm not sure if you watched the game, but he threw a lot of errant passes and missed open receivers. Whether or not that was miscommunication, I'm not sure, but I know Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago would have hit those passes anyway. He is starting to slip, and we watched Tom Brady, who I guess it's saying Tom Brady is slipping is probably an exaggeration, but when he started to lead down from his peak and become more of a technical quarterback instead of a power quarterback, he gave away money in his contract to make sure their team stayed together, a thing that he continues to do to this day. What's the difference between the organization with the Packers and the Patriots? The Patriots have been to the NFC title game, 7 out of the last 8 years?
Yep.
The Packers have been relevant in the Super Bowl one time and have not made the championship game besides twice. So there's a mirror in the locker room that Aaron can walk to with his deputy dog-looking face and look at it and decide who he wants to be. And it's not McCarthy, because is McCarthy's playbook limited? Yeah, but it's worked for them for the last 10 years. All of a sudden he's not happy because he sees the shiny new toy over in LA. Great. McVay is wonderful, but McVay isn't the rule. And Andy Reid is great, but Andy Reid's never won in the playoffs. So it's kind of a fallacy to blame McCarthy for this whole thing and say he's not creative enough. I think Aaron Rodgers isn't executing, and Aaron Rodgers put that organization behind the 8 ball by taking as much money as possible. Now, I'm not going to fault the man for wanting to make money. By all means, if you have the physical ability and the God-given gifts, make the money. But know that you make a choice in taking that contract. You limit the availability to bring in free agents and bolster the defense. So you made your bed with Danica Patrick and all of your money. Now lay in it and shut up about it. No more relax. Just shut up and play the game. You took the money, and now you have to deal with it.
I wish you told me in advance that you were going to be delivering a scorching hot take, because I didn't even bring enough oven mittens to touch that, Franco. I don't even know how to unpack it because I'm not at that level. So I think all I want to say is that I agree with you on the point that you shouldn't be upset because he did take the money, and every player has a right to that. But I do agree with you that does limit them in their future because of that max contract. So you're right. It was not a Tom Brady situation where he looked at his time, and he even did a documentary, Tom versus Time, and he said, I'm going to fight time by taking a reduced contract because I made a ton of money anyway. And that's the other thing, too, where now come to think of it, it's not like Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback that doesn't have any outside revenue streams here. He's State Farm, he's all over the place. So I think, he's taking the max contract, but you got to live with the consequences. And I think there's some interesting, MVS, who I have on fantasy, I'm trying desperately to will him to be a thing, and it's just not happening, so that's disappointing. So I think there's just pieces that are there that could be beneficial that he's not utilizing well. And I have a feeling, and if you had to bet, Franco, does McCarthy stay or go after this year? I think he goes.
I think he goes, but I don't think he deserves to go, to be frank.
Fair. No, that's
I
fair.
think McCarthy could rebuild that team if they move Rodgers and bring in free agents and get a good quarterback draft. Now, is this next year the year to draft a quarterback? No. So guess what? You just sit with Rodgers and be mediocre for 2 to 3 more years without McCarthy, and then either he rides into the sunset or he breaks collarbone again and goes Tony Romo's route. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers is not going away. We're going to see him again on NBC, overanalyzing things to the point of annoyance. Here's another hot take. Tony Romo is garbage on broadcast. His desire to overdiagnose things is ridiculous. He's often wrong, but tries to cover it up by throwing in, well, I would have done this. Here's a newsflash, Tony. You haven't won. You've never won. You never made the Super Bowl. Were you a good quarterback? Yes. Are you an offensive genius? No. So it's time to stop yammering like you're the expert. Can you read a play? Congratulations. So can every guy that played in the NFL as a quarterback. The end. And your Gruden phone line things are ridiculous.
Yes,
you and Gruden belong together.
I wish you told me another.
That's me hanging up the phone on Tony Romo.
I wish you told me in advance that there was another scorching hot take coming my way, because I would have gotten into my hazmat suit, and now I am burned to the bone. I almost cursed. But I'm excited. But I agree. I think it gets a little annoying with Tony Romo. I think Blake Bortles, Packers, knock knock. Blake Bortles is there looking for any place to go. Maybe he's your backup. It could be worse, Packers fans. Just deal with it. Anyway, we have some time left. We want to transition to movie news. You and I both saw the film Robin Hood. It is a new take on an old classic, and man, I had some questions and concerns about it. Franco, what did you think, first of all?
You mean we saw the reimagining of Batman Begins with Jamie Foxx as Alfred? Because that's kind of my thought, but I don't even know where to start. But from the opening that said, this is not the story of Robin Hood, and then literally launched into the story of Robin Hood, to the weird obsession with a villain that doesn't even get a boss fight, just kind of gets let go, to their interpretation of Maid Marian and Little John and Friar Tuck. I don't know. What am I supposed to do with that soup of characters and plot, Brendan?
I don't know. I mean, I think it goes back and forth. I'm at a loss for words trying to explain this film, because it starts off like a war film that looked like they were trying to recreate Black Hawk Down or those type of films, Hurt Locker, that aesthetic where it was under fire, but instead of weapons, we had arrows. I started laughing when Jamie Foxx was manning that machine gun arrow weapon, which I was like, this is ridiculous. And then you transition to where he gets shot by an arrow, and they just rip it out of him casually, and he gets sent home. When he comes home, he's lost everything. The Sheriff Nottingham, played by Ben Mendelsohn, who seemed to just be playing bad people. Like, he was in Ready Player One as the bad guy. He was in Rogue One as the bad guy, and he's just time traveling as the same character throughout different eras, and I enjoyed his acting, but at the same time, we've seen it so many times where they could have easily gotten somebody else. Jamie Foxx is all over the place. The clothes are weird in the sense of, I don't understand what year we're in, because they're wearing very modernized clothes, and then there's a whole sequence in at a casino party that was very disturbing. Jamie Dornan had a weird part where this is a spoiler, but honestly, if you're going to go see it, this is one of those movies I'd recommend you have at least 2 to 3 drinks to see, because it makes it a lot better. I did that. It was fantastic. No, but Jamie Dornan becomes the sheriff because he gets sad that he sees Robin Hood kissing Marian, and then that makes him completely evil. This movie was bizarre. It had potential. There are parts of it where it's like, ooh, I think they're building towards something, and then it just went away very quickly. Yeah,
anticlimactic is one way to describe it. I don't think it knew what kind of movie it wanted to be. It kind of oscillated again between Batman and Zorro.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about the entire war scene and the Crusades and the weird political light they try to shed on that.
Yeah.
The medical science is all off. I'm pretty sure Robin Hood's wearing Timberlands at one point, and then has a weird leather jacket thing that doesn't make any sense periodically in the period. I feel like that's a movie where a bunch of executives got in one room and said, let's remake Robin Hood with the guy from, I can't remember the movie anymore. Yeah, he was so bad, he made me forget his performance in Kingsman.
Yeah.
That's what it was. The guy from Kingsman, and then one guy was like, oh, let's do modern. And the guy's like, well, let's use modern costumes. And the guy's like, well, let's have this guy be the villain. And the guy's like, but he's a veteran because they all fought in the same war, so let's not even kill him. And the guy's like, well, let's make it a prequel without making it a prequel, so we can tell the exact same story a second time. And then finally we just gave up and they put that movie out.
Yeah, and even like random small stuff, like my wife pointed out, why did they show Marian trying to steal a horse and then never go back to that aspect of her character again, or why she even was stealing in the first place? There's a part where after Jamie Foxx's hand is cut off, he just randomly, there's no warning for this, there's something metal in a cauldron, and he just sticks his hand in and screams, and it cuts like instantly. I laughed out loud because I turned to my wife. I said, "What is happening? What just happened?" And then he's just shining this nub, and then all of a sudden he's still able to be a extreme fighter. The arrow sequences looked really ridiculous. I don't know. I think they were there's something. This is the last thing I'll say because I know we're running up against time. Just make a good movie. Just make a good movie. Like, don't worry about the world building. Don't worry about trying to plan something out for 4 movies. Just stop. Just try to make a good movie. Focus on that, and then you can always go back to it and make a sequel unless you kill everybody in the film. And you don't have to worry about, we can't do The Forest or we have to do a prequel because the second one will be where we really do Robin Hood and we make it really cool where he's wearing green and he has merry men. They just were like, no, we got to do this prequel first where the only person he hangs out with is Jamie Foxx and everyone else in the town still can't figure out that the that the African American guy is with Robin Hood, and that's weird. And the people that you're fighting in the Crusades, there's a guy that's right there that's from that area, and I think that was also frustrating. Like, what is this movie trying to do? And it looked like anti-Wall Street rioters at the end there. It was a very weird film, Franco.
Yeah, so I think if you wait for it to go to Netflix or the dollar bin at Walmart and watch it after you had a fun night, or maybe you're just super bored and want to veg out, it's a movie you can definitely forget seeing unless you see it in theaters and you paid to see it, in which case it'll haunt you forever, like me.
If you have the flu, this is a great film to put on while you are just incapacitated on your couch. But Franco, what did you learn today?
I learned that apparently I feel strongly against Aaron Rodgers, and I didn't know that. And also, Tony Romo haunts my dreams, and I felt the need to go on an outburst there. And Robin Hood will never be a movie I watch again. What did you learn?
I learned that you are just doling out hot takes like you've got an oven and a business license called Hot Takes Inc., my friend, and I love every minute of it. For the BFF show, my name is Brendan.
I'm Franco.
Have a good one.
Peace. And my microphone is not on.